That this is also a remote meeting and teleconference using Zoom pursuant to 1 MRSA Section 403-A. Welcome to the Sanford Planning Board meeting of November 15th, 2023. The meeting will now come to order. This is a public proceeding, and unless the board specifically votes to go into executive session, you have the right to hear everything that is being said and to look at all the exhibits that are being offered. Please notify the chair if you're unable to hear or see something. Please know that if any planning board members have potential conflicts of interest of which they are aware, they will disclose the conflict prior to the board initiating a hearing or action on an application. All persons speaking will be asked to state your name and address and then proceed. At the sole discretion of the chair, public testimony may be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. For each item, the applicant will be asked to describe the project. Thereafter, the chair will ask proponents of the project to speak, followed by opponents, and then those who are neither for nor against, but who want to make a comment, general comment or ask a question. Everyone who wants will have an opportunity to speak to the board through the chair. Any questions must go through and to and through the chair, who will then decide at what point to either ask staff or the applicant to respond. The chair may wait until after testimony has concluded to seek answers to any questions that are raised by the public or board members. Please note that rudeness, uncivil behavior, clapping, cheering, booing, etc. will not be tolerated, and if these behaviors occur, the chair, at sole discretion, may terminate the hearing and reschedule for another date. In addition, the chair, at his sole discretion, will limit repetitious comments, though it is entirely appropriate for an individual to indicate that he or she agrees with the previous speaker. Prior to closing the public hearing, the chair will ask if there are any new comments. Then the applicant will be allowed to make a single rebuttal in response to the testimony which was provided. Once the public hearing portion of the meeting is closed, the chair will accept no additional public comment. However, the member of the board, at the chair's discretion, may ask the applicant or a member of the public to respond to a question. This will not reopen public comment. Planning board decisions are based solely on whether an applicant has provided sufficient evidence to meet the requirements of local, state, and federal laws. In this regard, public testimony is most effective when it considers the impacts of a project in light of Sanford subdivision, site plan, shoreline or zoning ordinances, and other relevant regulations. After the board discusses the merits of each project, it will vote on written findings of fact. Since the findings may substantially affect any appeals rights and also as a matter of courtesy, the board asks that those attending the meeting not leave until the board has adopted the findings for the project you are interested in. After the planning board makes its final decision, any reconsideration by the board must be made at the next regularly scheduled meeting. If anyone wishes to appeal the board's final decision, he or she must do so within 30 days. The city's ordinances and comprehensive plan are available for viewing on the city's website and in the Planning and Development Department's office at 919 Main Street. Remember, this is a public hearing. You have the right to hear and see what is happening, and we welcome public participation. All right. For the record, Oliver is not present tonight, but with notice. So we have 2 sets of minutes. We'll first discuss minutes from March 1, 2023. Everybody was present at that meeting.
Motion to approve minutes as...
Second.
Perfect.
Any discussion? All in favor? 6-0. Right, moving on to minutes for March 15th, 2023. Again, all of us were present at that meeting.
Motion to approve minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? 6-0. Right. Item number 1, public hearing, new business file R18A 20D, 816 Main Street, Mercy Chapel. Jamie, do you want to get us oriented on this?
Good evening, everybody. The applicant is requesting a major site plan approval to create a parking lot behind the existing church and parking lot, as well as a temporary placement of a seasonal tent structure in between the current church and the garage utility building, I'm going to say behind, but to the side of it. There's some other generic site improvements like some landscaped islands, playground, handicap ramp into a side entrance. This went through site plan 2 weeks ago with a couple requests. I believe they had time to address a couple of them, and we might end up with a few small conditions.
Terrific. Is the applicant here?
Sorry. been early, but I drove right past the town hall like I was going to Wells and had to turn around. I know, I get confused.
It comes right up, so.
Great.
This one?
All right, good evening. My name's Kendra Ramsell. I'm a civil engineer with Sebago Technics, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant, which is Mercy Chapel. As Jamie mentioned, this is Lot 20D on tax map R18, and we are in the airport development zone, as well as a wellhead protection zone with the water district. This is to orient you right off of Route 109. I believe the abutter on both sides is the airport. Existing conditions, there are 2 buildings on site. It's the church itself and then a secondary building that I think they use for child service type stuff. And then there is paved parking. ADA parking is in between the 2 buildings, so we'll be moving that to the western side of the larger building, which holds the chapel. And then we'll be expanding into the back of the site, which is the southern side of the site, with a gravel parking lot, as mentioned. So just a little history on the project. A similar parking lot expansion was approved in 2014 by the city, and nothing was done. It was never constructed, and obviously construction was never completed. And then last year, the owner of the church, I think, went to start building the gravel parking lot that on the plans that he had approved, not understanding that his permit was null and void. So there was a stop work order, and here we are submitting a major site plan review application for a very similar parking lot. I believe it has more parking proposed than what was initially approved. In total, including the existing parking spaces, we're at 125 spaces. And because there was an increase in impervious from what was previously approved, we then had to modify the previously designed stormwater infrastructure. So we're proposing an underdrain soil filter on the southeast corner of the site. Oh, does my mouse? Yeah. So here is the underdrain soil filter here. There is a playground right here. This is not any sort of structural playground. It's just going to be play structures that you can buy and set up on your own. And we're also proposing landscaped islands. There are 6 of them. Each one has a street tree in it. And there are also pole lights proposed in order to make the site more safe. It's very dark out there right now. We're not proposing any improvements to the entrance. That's all good to go. And as Jamie mentioned, we are proposing currently a temporary tent structure in between the 2 buildings that the applicant would use seasonally for events that they host on site. In the future, we're not proposing it now. The reason we moved the ADA parking is because they would like to eventually connect the 2 buildings and make it into one building. So we moved the ADA parking and also are proposing a ramp at what is their front entrance, which is on the western side of the building, the main building. Utilities, we aren't touching those either. It's served by public water and sewer and electrical right from Route 109, and those will remain the same. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, we'll continue down through this and get through the public hearing, and then I'm sure if there are any questions, we'll definitely bring those up. All right, before we go to the public hearing, I just want to open up opportunity for any comments from staff.
Sure. Thank you. So just as an update, the Site Plan Review Committee had reviewed this. There were a couple of things that were outstanding at that time. The KKW Water District has since been contacted and has signed off on this because this is within the Branch Brook watershed, so that is required. The lot coverage for any proposed development within the Airport Development Support Subdistrict is limited to 80% of impervious coverage. The applicant has since told us that the coverage will be going from 25.8% to 56.5%. We just need that on the site plan moving forward. So that should be fine. The stormwater analysis has been updated to eliminate any concerns relating to the separation to groundwater for the proposed BMP. And then the landscaping plan is still outstanding. We'll need a planting schedule added to the site plan also, because the Chinese elm tree is only shown technically labeled in one spot, and we need to have it numbered so we know what is being installed. But otherwise, that was all of staff's comments.
Great, thank you. Any other staff that has any issues? Okay. All right, I'll now declare the public hearing open. If there's anybody present or on Zoom that would like to speak in favor of this project. Right, anybody who would like to speak against this project? And we have nothing in writing on this, right?
Correct.
Right. Lastly, if there's anybody who would like to speak neither for nor against, but would like to make a comment or ask a question. Okay, I'll declare the public hearing closed and open it up for discussion with the board.
I got one quick question. Is there any other landscaping that's going to be installed besides the trees on the island? Is there going to be anything else?
No.
Okay.
There is, I'll just note that there is a pretty robust natural buffer on the northeastern corner of the site already. We aren't impacting that.
And is there any fencing on the other side that's going to be going up or changing, or?
There are no changes proposed, but there is fencing along the entire back half of the parcel. Whatever abuts the airport is fenced in.
Yeah, that's the airport's fence, I'm sure. So
Yeah, you can see the fence that it runs. Well, you can't see it, but yeah, it runs along the western side, the southern side, and then continues back.
You're good. Any other comments, board? Do we have findings?
Okay. 280-16-7A, utilization of the site is recommended that it is met because the proposed site plan reasonably uses the site.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? 6-0.
280-16-7N, solid waste disposal, is met because solid waste is proposed to be collected on site and removed by a private contractor.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? 6-0.
280-16-7Q, technical and financial capacity is recommended that it is met because applicant has demonstrated adequate technical and financial capacity.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? 6-0.
280-16-7P, shoreline relationship, is recommended as not applicable because the applicant is not proposing any development.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? 6-0.
280-16-7B, access to the site. 280-16-7C, access into the site. 280-16-7D, internal vehicular circulation. 280-16-7E, pedestrian circulation. It is recommended that it has been met because the development will not create hazards to vehicular or pedestrian traffic.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? 6-0.
280-16-7F, stormwater management. 280-16-7G, erosion control. 280-16-7H, water supply. 280-16-7I, sewage disposal. 280-16-7J, utilities. 280-16-7K, natural features. 280-16-7L, groundwater protection. 280-16-7M, exterior lighting. 280-16-7O, landscaping. And 280-16-7R, buffering. It is recommended that it has been met because the applicant has provided adequate provisions to meet the standard.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? 6-0. All right, do we have a draft motion?
We do. The planning board accept the information in the October 31st, 2023 summer report, grant the requested waivers, and find that major site plan application R18A-20D to expand the current parking area by 42,800 square feet, add a dedicated outdoor play area, install stormwater and other site improvements has satisfied the requirements of Article 16 of the zoning ordinance, subject to the following conditions. 1, by December 15, 2023, unless other arrangements are made with the planning department, provide 3 copies of revised plans that adequately respond to issues raised in the review, which are part of the following conditions of approval. 1, update the site plan to show lot coverage calculations. And 2, update the site plan with a planting schedule. And then condition number 2, standard conditions of approval. Number 2, performance guarantee. Number 6, inspection fee escrow. Number 7, pre-construction meeting. Number 8, landscape and performance guarantee. And number 9, alteration of plans.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? 6-0. Congratulations.
Good luck.
All right, so moving on to item number 2 on the agenda, new business file R5-91, 16 Summer Street, Springvale, Nassau Apartments Phase 2. Can you help us get oriented, Jamie, please?
Yes, this is Nassau Development Apartments Phase 2. If you remember earlier this year, they came in to get major site plan, major subdivision approval to do 83 apartments in the old Nassau dorm campus. They are back with Phase 2 and also with a proposed master plan for the rest of the property. And Phase 2 is going to be an 18-unit freestanding apartment building right past the first building on the right side. This also went to site plan 2 weeks ago, and this is preliminary, so there's no conditions, but there was just a few items that we asked them to work on between now and final.
Great. All right.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys, for having us back. I guess maybe we'll start by giving you an update on...
Just for the record, please state your name and address for the record.
Nate Green, Green Mars.
And Chris Marshall, Green Mars.
So, yeah, thanks a lot for having us back, guys. We'll just start by giving you an update on Nassau 1. I think it's been, how long has it been since our approval on that? It's several months now. But we're well underway now with construction on the campus up there. If you guys recall, there's the 3 former Nassau College dormitory buildings, Hanscom, Phobes, and Prior Hussey. So as of right now, we're moving pretty well through the 3 buildings. The top building, Hanscom Hall, we're starting to actually finish units up there, which is pretty exciting. We held a neighborhood meeting last week. Aaron and Jamie, as well as Alex, were gracious enough to attend. So it was pretty cool to actually be in those buildings. And the units weren't 100% done, but we had doors up, trim up, painted, kitchens in, things like that. So it was pretty exciting to actually be in those finished units and get some members of the neighborhood in there so they could visualize what we're going for in there. We still have a long road ahead of us with construction. The other two buildings, we were doing rough-ins in the middle building, and the first building we're framing. So, but we're really hoping to get that first building occupied at some point this winter, and then the second building early in the spring, and then the third building early next summer. So progress is moving along really nicely, and hopefully we'll get that done and occupied as quickly as possible and get some much-needed housing. And moving on to why we're here tonight. So there's a Maine housing program called the Rural Rental Program. It's something that's been out now for a few years. I think they originally started phase 1 in 2021 was when it came out. There's phase 2, which is the second round of allocations for funding that's coming up in early 2024, where applications are due on December 7th. It was a little sooner than what we wanted. Ideally, we'd rather have phase 1 complete before we came in for phase 2, but we don't make the Maine housing schedule. We just have to abide by it, so here we are tonight.
And Maine Housing is responding to the lack of housing, so.
Of course.
You know, they're pushing some urgency here. Everything takes time, obviously, but they want to add housing as rapidly as possible.
The way that Maine Housing is selecting who actually gets the grants to build the housing is basically preparedness. So the stronger your application is, the more experience you have, the better your plan is. The further along you are, the closer to shovel-ready you are, the more likely you are to get that grant. Just a couple things to note about the grant. This is, we know one of the things Sanford enjoys is market rate housing, and that's our specialty at Green Mars. This particular 18 unit that we're going for is 80% AMI. So what that means is it's basically income restricted and it's rent restricted at 80% of the area median income. So every year Maine Housing puts out a list, and they do it by county, and they say, okay, in York County, a 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom at 80% AMI is, I think a 1-bedroom's around $1,300 and a 2-bedroom's around 14-ish, $1,460. So basically, if you move in that apartment, we can't charge any more than that limit. And the person that moves in that apartment, they can't make more than 80% of the area median income, which, what is that? They do it by family size, but it's around, I think, 50 to 60,000 for 1 and 2. So basically, the point is that the people that are moving into these apartments are going to be people that are working full-time, that are paying their rent every month, and these are high-quality people, and they're going to fit very nicely into our campus with all these other market rate apartments. And I mean, these 80% AMI rent levels are very similar to what we were projecting to charge for the market rate one. So it's going to be a really nice campus that's all going to fit together as one. I guess one of the things that we can probably start with, Chris, if you want to, actually, what do we have here? We have our overall site plan here. So it's a little challenging to see, but there's the 3 buildings. The first one, zooming in, is at the bottom. Yep, that long skinny rectangular, that's Prior Hussey. That's the one that we are currently framing up, but that's a former Nassau building, so that's part of phase 1. And then as you round that corner, that kind of rectangular, almost square building, that's the 18 unit we're proposing on this amendment. And then the third, Phobes, and fourth, Hanscom, those are buildings that are part of Nassau 1. Just as far as some of the staff comments that we've been working through, we added some landscaping on the front and the side of that new 18-unit building. We also changed and added some snow storage. That building was originally where we were going to do snow storage, which added some complication. We had the engineer do some updates on that, and I'm not sure if they're on this particular plan, but we added a new section for snow storage, which is basically right where that mouse is. I think Chris is going to go back and get the updated one that shows where it is, but that's where we added the snow storage. Who's controlling the mouse right now? I'm trying to figure out Oh, okay, all right. Well, anyways, Jamie was showing where we were putting the snow storage, so thank you, Jamie. Appreciate that. It was like someone's telepathically reading my mind right now, so that's pretty cool. All right, good. So that's where we moved that snow storage to, so we have adequate snow storage. Some of the other concerns were showing where the utilities go. It fits nicely into the existing utility plan. We met Sanford Water and Sanford Sewer out there, and they both thought that it would work nicely. The other thing that we needed to work through as part of our contract zone, if you guys recall, we got a contract zone for this property because it was originally zoned for single family. So as part of the contract zone, we had to do a master plan before we did any more development. If you look up on the screen, you can see the master plan. Now, there's a couple things to take a look at. It's a little confusing, but if you take a look at the gray in the middle, the darker gray are the parking lots and the roads, and the lighter gray, you can barely see them, but that's where the existing buildings are. And then there's the lighter gray, there's also landscaping and trees and things like that. Phase 2, which is what we're proposing right now, is that pink where Jamie's hovering over. And then these other phases are just potential development sites that we could do down the road. We don't have any plans for those right now, but hopefully if we get all these built and demand is good, then we can come up with a plan to develop those at some point. So, do you have anything to add, Chris? So, yeah, questions, comments?
Well, we'll finish going through the process, and then we'll come back to you if the board or anybody in the public has anything we want to talk back to you with. So,
Cool.
Right before we open the public hearing, does staff have any comments you'd like to bring up for us?
Thank you. I believe they've met several of the conditions that the site plan review committee had come up with. I did get that revised utility plan in front of the water district today, and they had a couple extra edits that they'd like to see some distance between I think the water and fire service potentially. But they can review that as part of final. That would be fine, and I can send you their notes. So that's something to include. The other comments were, I believe, drainage and grading. So the stormwater analysis from phase 1 will need to accommodate the site changes from phase 2. So we need to update that stormwater analysis. We will need to update the snow storage areas because I'm not sure if they're on that newly submitted plan or not. But the site location for phase 2 is where a large area of snow storage was proposed in phase 1. So moving forward, we'll need to accommodate both the newly needed snow storage of phase 2 as well as everything that was proposed to be placed in that location for phase 1. And then the only other outstanding condition would be to update your permits, such as your DEP permit from outside agencies, to accommodate the increased development. That was it.
All right, thank you. All right, I'll now declare the public.
One more thing. Were you guys were updating your traffic analysis as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. You want me to comment on that right now, or?
It was talked about quite a bit the first time around, so yeah.
Okay, yeah. We'll just comment on that real quick, if that's okay, Tom. So initially, we had Bill Bray do a traffic study on the impact of the 83 units. We actually went back to them and had them update just based on this additional 18 units on the property. We submitted the letter, I think to Aaron, it was yesterday, or maybe was it yesterday we submitted that to you, or was it this morning? Either way, it was tight. So the synopsis of the letter is that this additional 18 units will generate 8 peak trips during the peak AM hour and 7 during the PM peak hour. The letter states that this will have no impact on neighborhood traffic or extreme minimal impact. We do acknowledge that it will have an impact. And I think one of the things that we discussed last time was the importance of basically spreading cars out through the separate entrances. And that's how we initially designed those parking lots, so that we'd get that spread of people leaving out King Street and other people leaving out Summer Street, and then this building fits into that nicely because we had previously the top two buildings exiting that King Street, and then it was just prior Hussey, the bottom building exiting out Summer, and now this particular building is lined up, so it will exit out Summer Street as well. So we'll have a nice even split between those two entrances and should have as good a traffic flow as we can through the neighborhoods.
Right, I'll now declare the public hearing open. If there's anybody on Zoom that would like to speak on behalf of this project. Right, if there's anybody who would like to speak in opposition to this project, either in the room or on Zoom, nobody in the room.
We did receive a written comment that I can read in, if no
Please.
one on Zoom wants to. Okay. This was received today. To all members and involved, my name is Andrea Lunzer. Being a direct property abutter at 16 King Street, I am very concerned about adding another 18-unit building, directly creating even more traffic, expenses to the city of Sanford, causing property tax increases the residents cannot afford, and more waste and danger to wetlands and environment. I have many concerns about the 3 existing buildings being renovated and all of the unforeseen changes that have yet to be done since the beginning of original approval. I think this reflects on what may be unforeseen issues with the new proposed 18-unit that is up for review and then approval or denial. I have viewed the preliminary sketch of the newly proposed 18-unit building. I am concerned about the wetlands seemingly being so very close to construction of the building. I am concerned about if there will adding fill to address this issue and concerned about effect destruction of the wetland. What is the neighborhood recourse if it causes more flooding and destruction? I am concerned about any increasing stormwater runoff, creating possible damage to lower-lying property such as mine. I am concerned about snow removal and storage causing damage and excess chemicals in a delicate environment also. Having lived in this location, I have seen the wetlands fill to higher levels and lower on their own. I am concerned about the unnatural soil erosion and shifting the new building may cause. I am concerned about new and existing culverts creating more water flow to lower-lying areas. Another concern is about more light and noise pollution. This new building is close to my property and will compound these effects to me, the Springvale Community and Wildlife. Original plan, I was told that a pump station may still be required. No one seems to know if it's still required and where this will be placed and if this may add to noise. I believe this new proposal for an 18-unit building will negatively impact the neighborhood, wetlands, and city of Sanford/Springvale Village. Thank you for your consideration of my views and the opportunity to be heard. Respectfully, Andrea Lunzer.
Great, thank you. Is there anybody else?
I will also say I received an email today from Mrs. Lunzer. She had recently seen a salamander in the parking lot where they're using for storage of the building materials for the first building. She was concerned that the new construction in that area would disrupt the natural critters.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on Zoom that would like to speak? Right, lastly, if there's anybody who would like to speak neither for nor against, but would like to make a comment or ask a question. All right, declare the public hearing closed and open up the discussion for the planning board.
I have a couple questions. The first one is, can you provide a consensus to the public meeting that happened, or not public meeting, but little gathering, neighborhood meeting that you guys had?
Yeah, it was fairly well attended, not as well as the previous ones we had. It seems like the excitement may have worn down a little bit just from the initial phase 1 development. We had
5 attendees.
Yeah, 5 attendees. Everyone was in favor except for Andrea. We have I would say, a pretty good relationship with Andrea. We spent a fair amount of time with her. And one of the things, if you guys recall, in our phase 1 development is she is a direct abutter. So we had put in the site plan that we'll do a fence that will shield her property from headlights and some of her concerns. So we will obviously do that, and, you know, we want to do the best we can to ensure that she's comfortable with what we're doing, and we're going to continue interacting with her. But overall, the meeting was super positive, and we were very excited to show neighbors, you know, what this place is going to look like.
Excellent, thank you. Second question is about the traffic study, which is funny you brought that up because that was already on my list. So if I heard you correctly, the study that was recently done was for phase 1. Do you plan to have additional traffic studies as the project builds and you increase the units? Because I think when we last spoke, it was a traffic study based on like the completion of the project and how that would be impacted. So I appreciate, you know, for the units that you've completed now, that's very helpful. But then how do you see the traffic study changing, or do you plan to do additional studies as you complete the phases?
Yeah, you're 100% right. So if you recall our phase 1, we did that traffic study for the 83 units. And then the update we did to that study is we had them go back out and do more counts based on these 18 additional units that we're adding. So we sent it in late, but Aaron, I'm sure, will share the updated letter that includes these additional 18 units. And then any phase that we do in the future, we'll continue to update that traffic study.
Great, thank you.
I got one question. With respect to the letter that Aaron read, is there any buffer between that gentleman's property and what's being proposed?
There's the fence that they are proposing,
That
that they
fence.
had discussed with her previously.
That's for Andrea's property, and this
Correct.
is the same for the letter that you read? Is that the same?
Andrea wrote the letter
Andrea,
that I
okay.
read.
Same person?
Same
okay.
person.
All right, very good.
And that, where the property abuts Andrea's property was originally a parking lot, and it will be a parking lot for this too, so it's a similar use. But we are, and we, you know, we're going to do our best to make her happy. So if the fence isn't adequate, then we're happy to do some additional vegetation, things like that. We want to really work with the neighborhood to, so we want the neighborhood to use the property to get to the rail trail and have that connectivity through, so.
So the fences you're talking about, has that already been identified on plans so that we're
Yeah, that
set
was-
there? This isn't just an agreement behind, okay.
To be fair, we don't have like a drawing or a rendering of the fence or a product, but.
I just
it's a
want to make sure
privacy
if we're
fence,
making.
right?
Right, it's a privacy fence,
Thank
yeah.
you.
I think that's the only thing it says on the phase 1 site plan.
I just want to make sure if we're making commitments that we're documenting these commitments and not just, yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it was documented on that phase 1
Okay.
approval.
And just on a note, I don't think we discussed size of fence at phase 1. It was simply written as privacy fence, but Mrs. Lunzer has since requested an 8-foot tall privacy fence.
I believe the specification in phase 1 was 6 feet, if I remember correctly. So there was a spec on the height of the fence, and obviously the length is on the site plan itself. But like we said, we're happy to work with Andrea on modifications.
I just have one other comment, too. I think there was a rendering of the building in the plans. Is that an accurate rendering, color-wise? Is that going to be?
I mean, the color hasn't been 100% set, but we think that color meshes well with the other colors of the buildings, and we tried to make it a natural type color, but that's not 100% set in stone,
It'll be a darker color, though.
probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
On the Patriots Lane, we discussed E911 addresses. Is that going to apply to these guys too?
So on Patriots Lane, we specifically asked them to put up additional signage because of the number of the buildings. So they're currently approved for 3 buildings that will each have their own address. And yes, we're going to work with all developers to unify how they number floors.
Right.
Up until this point, as the E911 person, we've always just assigned the actual street number. We don't actually assign the unit numbers, the apartment numbers. but we're going to get a little bit more involved in that because we have some apartments that are 1, 2, 3, 4 through 100, and we have some that do hundreds on the first floor and 200s on the second floor and 300s on the third floor. So we are going to come up with a unified solution and start requiring people to follow that. In this case, with 3 buildings, maybe 4, we're probably starting to approach the needing to give directions to emergency personnel so they know which building to go to.
Any other comments from the board? Questions? All right. We don't have findings, right? Just the
No findings, just the motion.
draft motion.
And just a reminder, it's not a separate line item on the agenda, but after we do the draft motion, we should just have a small conversation on the concept plan, the master plan. As part of their contract zone, they are required to get a master plan before they do any other further development. So one of the conditions coming out of site plan is that they submit and get approval for the master plan. So after we have this discussion, if we could just go back to that master plan to see how you guys like that plan.
Absolutely.
The planning board accept the information in the October 31st, 2023 summer report, grant the requested waivers, and find that application for file R5-91 to construct a new 18-unit multifamily building with associated site improvements has satisfied the requirements of Article 6 of the subdivision ordinance and Article 16 of the zoning ordinance, subject to the submission and information and conditions described below. In the major final subdivision plan application, provide revised plans that adequately respond to issues raised in the review, which are part of the following conditions of approval. A, submit a master plan in accordance with the contract zone, so we're probably going to take care of that one momentarily. B, update site plan to show location of snow storage areas for the new parking lot and also for the area that was previously designated as snow storage. C, provide utility plans for proposed utility hookups. D, update stormwater analysis for the new areas. And then E, update outside agency permits, i.e. DEP.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor? 6-0. All right.
Did you guys happen to bring any pictures of what they look like on the inside? Or did we have to show up in person to see what they look like?
We're happy to take you through. We have some pictures. I don't know how we get them on the screen, but
I don't know. I was curious, though. Show and tell for next time.
There you go. Yep.
put together a slideshow.
Yeah.
They're looking good.
Well, we'll have a
take
website
it.
up soon
Okay.
with the units, advertising the units, so.
That's true.
that'll have
Oh,
some
that's
pretty good
true.
pictures.
We'll
Perfect.
probably start getting advertised in December.
Excellent.
All right,
Nice-
so now
nice
we
job.
move on to the master plan, so I didn't
Master
cut
plan.
you off.
Oh, you're good.
So they discussed it before. I got the picture back on my screen, Ben. This is a fairly generic master plan because they don't have any true expectations of what these future phases might look like, other than through the contract zoning process. They discussed maybe doing a single-family segment of it, maybe doing more multifamily, maybe doing a dense development of small, I'm not going to call them tiny houses, but smaller style houses, to get a good mix of everything that, all the different residential uses that the urban zone might allow. This doesn't get specific on what goes where, because in reality, the market dictates what goes where, and like, they weren't expecting to do this 18-unit 6 months ago when they got approval, and here we are today. So, as I mentioned, if all of these go well, then maybe 6 months from now, we'll be back going for phase 3. But the master plan is just basically showing the different areas that potentially could be developed, and also what order they think at this point they might be doing the redevelopment. Something might change. This doesn't set in stone that it has to be this order, but this is the intended order as of now.
I also look at this, and I can't help but think of LD 2003, and the zoning, single-family residential will go away, and it will be general residential. And so the development in this contract zone will be very consistent with the zone that it will be, surrounding area will be going to.
Yep.
Also begging the question of if the contract zone at that point will be even necessary.
Well, it's too late for that. The contract's been signed and executed. But if we could have rubbed the magic ball 3 years ago when they started, we might not have had to do as much work on the contract zone as we did, because the zoning was now going to change. But it might not be as big of a change to the overall neighborhood as once the neighbors might have thought.
All right, anybody have any comments, questions about the master plan?
If you guys so feel fit.
Motion to approve it.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? 6-0.
Janice.
Good luck.
Appreciate it, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to everyone, and we just want to say one thing. Thank you to Jamie, Aaron, and Alex for coming to our neighborhood meeting. The support we get from Sanford is unparalleled, so we appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, guys. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, so moving on to planning director's report.
I'm going to start off on a personal note. I became a grandpa today for the first time. My younger daughter, Natalie, had a 7-pound, 12-ounce baby boy, happy, healthy. A little bit of a rough go at the actual childbirth portion of it, but everybody's good, and
Now, do you have a picture?
I do.
Have a picture?
I do. And my phone's been blowing up the whole night, so they're posting them rapidly on Facebook as we speak. But I sent one to everybody earlier today.
Can I pass it down?
On a different note, yesterday, Aaron and myself presented the LD 2003 changes to the zoning subcommittee. That will be going to council on December the 5th for the first read. At council level, the subcommittee has 3 counselors present and some other staff. They also had some discussion on the home owner occupancy requirements. I'd say they didn't vote or anything because it's just a subcommittee, but I would say coming out of it that at least 2 of the counselors felt pretty strongly that we should keep the homeowner occupied provision, but the full council will discuss it at the reads.
For the accessory dwelling unit.
Correct. Correct, sorry.
No, they know.
They didn't have many comments on the single-family to RD zone conversion. They agreed that that's probably the best, cleanest way, and agreed that even the things that we did ever so slightly beyond what we had to, they thought it was a good idea to try to meet the intent of LD 2003. Me, Aaron, and Alex had a little bit of a discussion on the table of land uses. That will be coming back at some point. We voted to combine SFR and RD, but actually forgot that there's a table of land uses and different uses in those zones. We started to try to make the decisions on our own, and then I said, no, we had to bring it back to you guys for your input on it. So we're not done with LD 2003, so the next time we discuss it, we'll have those comparisons on. And it's probably only a half a dozen items that really need a decision on, and most of them are,
It's 19.
It's 19, but most of them are simple decisions.
Close.
There was about,
It was included in the packets when we were discussing this, and I highlighted the ones that were different. We thought it would be easier
right.
to do than it was.
Once we started talking about it, we're like, no, we need your input. So that'll come back at a future discussion, probably the next meeting, because it goes to council twice, so it'll be in council for a month. So we still have a month to address it, but I want to get that to council before the second read so that they can incorporate it in their final decision.
This has to be done before the end of the year, correct?
LD 2003 is supposed to be done by the end of the year, but it was supposed to be done before the end of the last year. The state keeps extending it because very few municipalities have the time or resources to make it happen. Sanford's in good shape where we've done a majority of the work. We just really haven't hit the affordable housing concept yet. But I think Sanford's in good shape compared to other equal municipalities and where we're at and where we're going to be on January 1. We're not going to be 100%, but we're going to be 70%. And I think that's pretty good.
Forgiveness.
That's right. Well, it'll also be on next meeting's agenda, probably, so I gave you guys a break this week. You're welcome.
You're so nice.
70% is better than zero.
That's right.
Right, if we're going to try for 100, you're never going to get 100 the first time. out of the
And I'll say that I feel Sanford was in pretty good shape to start. We're not doing major changes here. Our ordinance was already forward-thinking, some. I mean, we have made some changes, but there are other communities that are rewriting their ordinance for this, and we're just doing some pretty minor tweaks, so I think we're in decent shape. Applications and pre-apps for the planning department have, I hate to say this, slowed just a tad. That's normal for this time of year. It's a good thing. Aaron has been tasked with comprehensive plan update, and so far we haven't given a whole lot of time to focus on that. So I am very hopeful that it does slow down a little bit, so both her time and you guys' time can switch on our very needed ordinance and comprehensive plan amendments, so that we can get those behind us and well, comprehensive plan first, then ordinance to follow through. So hopefully, we're going to be having more of those type discussions in the near future. Code enforcement side of the world, the building permits are not slowing down, so I think we will continue to see subdivisions and apartments come through because we don't have a lot of available land in existing subdivisions, and they're filling apartments quicker than they can build them. So I think we're going to continue to see housing units come through. But for now, I'm hopeful for a month or two that Aaron can focus on other things.
Speaking of which, we have a committee posted, both in the Waterboro Reporter online and the Sanford Springville News with just the generic committee openings, including planning board. The Community Resilience Committee. So there's a community resilience partnership that is statewide, and I'm not sure if it's COVID funding, but there's some funding out there that we need to basically form a committee, do some self-evaluation, look towards the future, see which projects would be a priority out of a predetermined list, so it's a fairly light lift, and then complete an application for this funding. If you know anyone that's interested in climate change, resilience, environmental things, there's a lot of electric vehicle, transportation options, there's other natural resource protection. These are all action items that could be prioritized, but we have it advertised now until December 14th. And it's a generic application, committee application, same as you all filled out to be on this board, and it goes to Larissa, I believe. It says it on the application. So if you can think of anyone, we might also include them in the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee, but this one is currently listed as an official committee that the counselors will, appointment subcommittee will review and appoint.
And I'll follow up on that. She kind of hit it, but I believe 3 of you guys' terms are up this fall. I will ask Jan to politely send you guys applications to reapply. And I'll even ask her to pre-fill them out for you to help you out if you want.
She's very good at that.
Mine in the mail last week, I already turned it in. so-
Okay, excellent.
I got mine in the mail. It's sitting on my counter, under other mail, so.
Then I asked that, I didn't get one, so I guess I'm still good.
Maybe we can find their previous ones and photocopy it.
We can try.
All right, anything else from Director?
A question for Jamie.
Yeah, please, Lenny.
So are we getting a Chase Bank in town?
We are. The old Burger King is going to become a Chase Bank.
They using the existing building?
No, we'll tear it down.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, they're tearing it down. They were like just under the threshold of becoming a major site plan,
They eliminated a corner of the parking lot, so they didn't have to come visit you guys.
basically. They don't have full approval yet. They're still working on some utility issues because there's a moratorium on Main Street in front of them in cutting the utilities. So they were tabled, actually, that site plan, and we'll be seeing them again on the 5th, December 5th, potentially.
All right. Since we've kind of opened communications, does anybody have anything on the board? All right, I guess I would just throw out one thing. If you noticed that we changed things up a little bit to provide an opportunity kind of in the flow of things for staff to make comments. We've always welcomed staff comments, but it's usually like smattered in here and there and all that. So we wanted to have a kind of a place in the agenda or in the flow of how we have these discussions where they can have an opportunity to speak. We felt that having it before the public hearing was an opportunity to just kind of get the thoughts out there. And then tonight wasn't a heavy lift when it came to the public hearing, but it was more of just a procedural thing to kind of keep things flowing, but have it be a natural kind of progression as we go through this process. So,
I thought it was awesome.
anything else from anybody?
One more question, too. For December meetings, are we doing 2 meetings in December, or is it just going to be 1?
I don't remember what we did for the calendar. What meetings are what days are the meetings?
Hold on, 6th and 20th.
I don't think we changed them.
Yeah, we have it scheduled currently, December 6th and December 20th.
I know
Do you
typically
have-
the group has gotten together for a holiday get-together. I don't know if you guys have given any consideration to that?
I did just order holiday decorations for our office, so there's that. They haven't come in yet.
So I haven't started planning a holiday get-together. We did do one last year at,
Pilot's Cove.
yep.
Oh,
I'm more than willing to try to help organize one if you guys are available and willing.
Do we have to put a public notice out? Because since the quorum?
I believe we did notice it last time, yep.
Okay. That way we don't pull a other municipality that I won't mention.
sure.
Do you guys have a date you would like to try to make this happen?
You want to do it instead of the 20th meeting? Is that where you're in?
Did we,
Can we change our meeting to a party?
Beth had scheduled the last one, so pardon my ignorance. It was in lieu of a meeting. Have we told anybody about that meeting yet? Have we promised that date to anybody? I don't believe so.
Nope.
So we can switch that second meeting in December to a get-together.
Motion to approve?
That works for me. I'm already committed.
Well,
Excellent.
she invited everybody, too,
Everybody being who?
like the counselors and,
City Manager Steve Buck and his wife came last year.
Yeah, Steve and Pam are there.
Yep.
I hung out with
I
them.
love planning Christmas parties. Do we have a budget?
It's
It's
everybody
pay
paid for
yourself.
themselves.
Oh, okay, fine.
oh, after a few
Don't you have
beers, you
any,
can
like a
say
box of like
anything you
penny
want.
cash?
Get a slush
It's
fund?
very petty.
Can't be afraid.
We need an impact fee for our
All right.
Christmas party.
Anything else from anybody?
No. Motion to adjourn?
Second. All in favor? 6-0.